George, the NBA suspended him 25 games for violating the league's anti-drug program.
You took some enhancement drugs to make you better on the court, but then you blame it on mental health.
While Paul George was just hit with a 25-game suspension, and the timing couldn't feel more dramatic. One moment, he was speaking publicly about stress, pressure, and using mental health medication. The next, the league announced a major disciplinary action. Naturally, that sequence of events has sparked speculation. Questions are swirling, especially around reports that the league may have discussed potential cooperation in exchange for leniency. That kind of rumor immediately shifts attention beyond just one player and raises bigger concerns about what might be happening behind the scenes. What makes this situation feel massive is the scale of the name involved. Paul George isn't a role player. He's a 9-time All-Star and a franchise-level star. The Philadelphia 76ers invested over $200 million in him to anchor their championship ambitions. Now, suddenly, he's sidelined for 25 games without pay. No gradual lead-up, no public warning, just an immediate suspension that alters the course of a season. This wasn't a minor penalty. A 25-game suspension falls under the NBA and National Basketball Players Association's anti-drug program for performance-enhancing substances. That alone signals how seriously the league treats the violation. The suspension reportedly took effect immediately before a scheduled game, creating shockwaves not just for George, but for teammates, coaches, and the front office. Losing a star player mid-season doesn't just affect rotations, it impacts chemistry, playoff positioning, and long-term planning. It's also important to understand how
PG had 35, 5 and 5, hit 9 threes.
Yeah, that got him tested.
And then ended up getting suspended a few days later on that Saturday.
Been injured for so long.
The league clearly viewed the failed test as serious enough to act quickly and quietly, protecting both its policies and its public image. When a suspension of this magnitude happens without detailed public explanation, speculation is inevitable. It stops feeling like just an isolated mistake and starts raising broader questions about transparency, timing, and how much of the full story the public is actually hearing. Right now, Paul George is the name attached to the punishment, while many of the surrounding details remain confidential. Shortly after the suspension was announced, George released a statement through ESPN's Shams Charania. The wording was deliberate. He explained that over the past few years he has been open about his mental health, and that while recently seeking treatment for a personal issue, he made a mistake by taking improper medication. He accepted responsibility, apologized to his family, the Philadelphia 76ers organization, his teammates and fans, and promised to prioritize his mental health while working to return as a better player in person. It was calm, direct, and avoided blaming anyone else. Importantly, this wasn't the first time George had spoken publicly about anxiety and depression. He was candid about his struggles during the 2020 NBA bubble and in the aftermath of difficult playoff performances, even discussing them on his own podcast. That context gives his statement weight and makes it consistent with his past openness. However, the timing of events has fueled conversation. Just days before the suspension was announced, George delivered one of his strongest performances of the season, scoring 32 points and hitting 9 three-pointers in a win over Milwaukee. Considering he had dealt with injuries and inconsistency throughout the year, appearing in only 27 games and missing 20, that sudden standout performance drew attention. In professional sports, significant performance swings often invite scrutiny, fair or not. Former players and media voices speculated that such a spike could prompt additional testing or review under standard league protocols. It's important to stress that speculation is not proof. The NBA's anti-drug program includes routine and random testing procedures, and without official disclosure of specifics, any connection between a single performance and league action remains unconfirmed. Still, in high-profile cases, the sequence of events naturally becomes part of the public conversation. Financially, the suspension carries major consequences. George signed a 4-year, $112 million contract with Philadelphia in 2024. For the 2025-26 season, his salary is approximately $51.7 million, which breaks down to roughly $469,000 per game. Over 25 games, that represents a significant forfeiture, millions in lost earnings. At 35 years old, with a career that has already included serious injuries, missing that stretch of games is not just costly, but potentially impactful in terms of rhythm, conditioning, and playoff momentum. The suspension reportedly keeps him sidelined until late March 2026, deep into the postseason race. That timing affects not only George's individual season, but also the 76ers' playoff positioning and long-term plans. Publicly, the story centers on accountability and mental health.
Here, you're feeling the weight of that contract. You want to make sure that you're a good player on the Philadelphia 76ers. You took some enhancement drugs to make you better on the court, but then you blame it on mental health.
I mean, it's not
Mental health.
rocket science here. I mean, the fact that he deflected it and made it about mental health was just crazy. Just own it and move on, because, Donnie, nobody will care in another week.
In a league this big, moments like this rarely feel isolated. When Paul George becomes eligible to return during Philadelphia's home matchup against the Chicago Bulls, he'll have just 10 regular season games left to regain rhythm before the playoffs. 10 games. No easing back in, no extended runway, just immediate, high-stakes basketball. At the time of the suspension, the Philadelphia 76ers were 26-21, sitting 6th in the Eastern Conference and riding a 4-game winning streak. With Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and George healthy together, the team looked like a legitimate contender, not just on paper, but in execution. Then suddenly, 1/3 of that core was gone for nearly 3 months. No gradual transition, no contingency plan that fully replaces a max contract star. It's the kind of disruption that can reshape a season. One key detail often overlooked is the NBA's therapeutic use exemption process under its anti-drug program. Players who have legitimate medical reasons to use substances that are otherwise banned can apply for approval and avoid penalties. This commonly applies to certain ADHD medications and other regulated treatments. From what has been publicly reported, George did not have an approved exemption before taking the medication in question. If accurate, that procedural misstep, failing to clear it with the league first, would be enough to trigger a suspension under the collectively bargained policy. George has framed the situation as tied to mental health treatment, but he has not specified the exact medication or how it violated league policy. Because the NBA does not publicly disclose the substance involved, that lack of detail has fueled speculation. And in high-profile cases, when information is limited, public interpretation often fills the void. Reaction across the basketball world was immediate and divided. Media personalities questioned how a veteran player with access to top-tier medical and legal guidance could overlook the clearance process. On Inside the NBA, Charles Barkley expressed surprise and suggested the situation felt unusual, noting that while the league has relaxed some policies over time, performance-related substances remain a serious matter. When longtime analysts speak that candidly, it adds weight to the discussion. Stephen A. Smith described the suspension as a major setback to Philadelphia's championship hopes, and competitively, that's difficult to dispute. Losing a player of George's caliber for 25 games impacts standings, seeding, and playoff chemistry. Former players also raised questions about timing, especially in light of his recent standout performance before the suspension was announced. Others debated whether certain medications tied to mental health treatment should carry such severe consequences if not directly performance-enhancing, though under current league policy, procedural compliance is mandatory regardless of intent. Not all commentary was sympathetic. Some voices accused George of hiding behind vague language, suggesting the explanation lacked clarity. That criticism reflects a broader reality of modern sports media. Incomplete details often generate suspicion. Meanwhile, social media amplified everything. Memes, jokes, and unverified theories spread.
Health, it's mental health. Listen, I can tell you too. Nigga 41 out there doing some other shit. Why we ain't testing him? They do.
$50 million on his body.
He do. What's up with Paul? Paul can't do it, but he can. No. You just can't get caught. That's the thing. Because the NBA, they protect their players. That's what I already. Hey, we had this conversation. The NBA protect their players. They're not going to give you the name of what it was. No, for sure. How many games did Bobby Porter get suspended for? Say it. 20 what?
25?
25. For what?
Wait,
Bobby Porter. Remember last year he got in 25 games. Oh, I forgot.
Some analysts have argued that this situation comes down to judgment. When you're a veteran player earning over $50 million per year, you typically have access to agents, team physicians, compliance staff, and direct league contacts. In that environment, clearing any medication through proper channels isn't optional. It's part of the professional standard. From that perspective, critics say the issue isn't just about breaking a rule, it's about failing to double-check in a system designed to prevent exactly this kind of outcome. At the same time, it's important to separate confirmed facts from speculation. The NBA has not publicly disclosed the specific substance involved in Paul George's suspension, and under league policy, it likely never will. As a result, online discussion has included a wide range of theories, from stimulants to performance-enhancing drugs, but there is zero official confirmation of any of those claims. Without verified reporting from established outlets, those remain guesses. There has also been a rumor circulating online suggesting that George was allegedly offered leniency in exchange for naming other players. That claim has not been confirmed by any major, credible news organization. The NBA's collectively bargained anti-drug policy does not publicly outline incentives of that nature, and without verified sourcing, it should be treated as unsubstantiated speculation. In high-profile cases, especially when details are confidential, rumors can spread quickly because people fill in gaps with assumptions. What is factual is how the NBA's anti-drug program operates. The policy was originally established in the early 1980s, during a period when substance abuse issues were